All right, so this verdict just coming in a few hours ago. Ian Mitcham found guilty of murdering Allison Feldman, a woman in her young 30s, in her Scottsdale, Arizona home back in 2015. I can't believe this. It's been more than 10 years since this crime happened. You can see Allison here on your screen. And I just want to take you through a little bit about what this case is about, that got us here, why it took so long. And then you can see a picture of her and her dad right there, Harley. Harley's standing by live after just getting home from the courthouse to actually talk to us on the show tonight about his reflections about this verdict so many years later. But Allison Feldman was living in Scottsdale, Arizona, very successful in medical sales. She was loved by everybody. She was social. I mean, she just had everything going for her. And then it was this horrific night in February of 2015 when her boyfriend couldn't get a hold of her and found her the next day brutally murdered inside her own home. Allison was found sexually assaulted. Her home was burglarized. She was beaten, and there was bleach that was all over the crime scene, as if the person who did this tried very hard to clean up the mess, but obviously did not. For a long time, there were no leads as to who did this. A lot of people suspected her boyfriend for many years because he was the one that found her and was closest to her. Police literally went door to door in the neighborhood trying to figure out if there was anything that they could learn. Had there been people in the area, delivery drivers? I mean, this really rocked the community of Scottsdale because, one, nobody knew who would have something against Allison to commit a crime like this, and two, was this entire community in danger? It wasn't until 2018, 3 years later, when familial DNA led to a match and led to a suspect, Ian Mitcham. Now, Ian's DNA was a direct match to the crime scene. But there was some controversy that happened as to how they got his DNA, and that's what ended up slowing down this case a little bit more. You can see Ian Mitcham there on the left side next to his attorney. But Ian had a DUI case with Scottsdale police, and here in Arizona, if you have a DUI, they can use your DNA and your blood to go through that case, but after that case is done, they have to get rid of your DNA. Scottsdale police didn't do that. So when they got a familial match to somebody who was behind bars already, that DNA said, hey, the person whose profile is at the Allison Feldman crime scene is either a sibling, a parent, or a child of this person they got a match for. They started looking at this guy's brothers, his parents, and that's when they came across Ian Mitcham. He lived somewhat in the area. They started looking at whether he was around in the Scottsdale area that night, and they zeroed in on him. They realized that he still had his DNA in the system in Scottsdale police, and that's what they actually used to test it against the Allison Feldman crime scene DNA. That's how they got that direct match, and that's how they went forward to arrest him. Ian Mitcham and Allison Feldman have no known connection at all. Allison did not know Ian, and we still to this day have no idea how Ian actually found and got into the home of Allison Feldman. Was he just walking in the area? We don't know how this happened, and that's very rare. Typically, when there's a brutal crime like this, it's somebody that people know. His attorneys, right before the trial was ever supposed to begin, raised this red flag that because his DNA was taken from that DUI and it shouldn't have been obtained like that, that was violating his constitutional rights. And this went through the court system here in Arizona, back and forth through appellate courts as to whether or not the DNA in this case could be used during the trial. And went all the way up to the Arizona Supreme Court, who ended up ruling that it could be used due to something called the law of inevitable discovery. What does that mean? Well, Ian Mitcham wasn't a great guy. He had other felony convictions that ended up coming up throughout this time. And eventually, his DNA would have been in the system when he was convicted of these other felonies a couple years after he was arrested in Allison's case. When you're a felon, a convicted felon in Arizona, your DNA automatically goes into the database and into the system. So the Supreme Court said, inevitably, a couple years later, they would have gotten that match to the Allison Feldman crime scene DNA once Ian Mitcham's other felonies went through. And that's what made the DNA possible to use in this trial. That DNA was absolutely key. And I know we've talked about this over and over on this show before, but when it comes to direct evidence, and really when it comes to evidence at all, DNA is just so important. There really isn't anything more important for a crime scene. And in a case like this, where there was just this bizarre mystery as to how Ian would have even gotten to Allison, that DNA really told a lot of the story. I want to bring in Allison Feldman's dad, Harley Feldman. Harley, I know, I mean, you and I have talked for years now, but today, after all of your advocacy for more than 10 years in your daughter's case, I just need to know the first thought that went through your head when you heard guilty of first-degree murder and guilty on all counts, including burglary and sexual assault.
What hit me was we got there. I started out by saying I was going to find this killer and get him convicted for Allison. She was murdered, and we wanted to avenge that murder. And today it happened.
And you've done so much. I mean, I'm just thankful to even have you on the show live tonight. You have been in court every day, and we should tell people this trial started back in November of last year. This was a very, very lengthy trial. It's exhausting. To get to the point now, what do you think it was that the prosecution did that really sealed the deal for the jury here?
The prosecution did a phenomenal job. I want to thank the Maricopa County Attorney General's office for doing this. But I think the thing that really hurt Ian is there was no story. There was no evidence that he was been in Allison's house. There was no DNA left from anyone else other than him. The Scottsdale police lady that does the DNA analysis showed it was 1 followed by 27 zeros, that it was Ian's DNA that was there. And so they didn't have a story on the defense side, and they put one together. They put together a story that was the wrong guy, and it should have been, they should have charged the pharmacist that lived 3 blocks away. The reason for that story is that the pharmacist, after a year, told some neighbors, I did it, but I'm just kidding. And he was just kidding. I'm sure he'll regret those words for the rest of his life.
Yeah.
But the defense built a story around that, and it couldn't have possibly been true. The only DNA in the house was Ian's.
And they tried to say in the defense, not only blaming it on James Castlemedes, the pharmacist, but they also tried to say that because they were going to have to try to explain away Ian's DNA in the house. Why else would it be there? There would be no reason. And they kept saying, well, DNA tells some of the story, but it doesn't tell the whole story, and it could be transferred there. What did you make of that attempt? And do you think the jury ever even remotely gave that any consideration?
I don't think they gave it any consideration. It just doesn't hang together. DNA doesn't just appear in places. And during the investigation, they found 3 distinct samples. And Ian tried to clean up. He left the house. He went and got the chlorine compound that you're referencing, came back and wiped down almost everything. But 3 of the samples he did not know were there. It doesn't stand out. You don't see the DNA. Has to be on something or somewhere. And so he missed 3 places, and those 3 places are what ultimately did him in.
Had the DNA ruling not gone in your favor, in the state's favor, if it hadn't been able to been used, do you think that this would have possibly not had the outcome you wanted?
Probably would not have been solved. I know of a lot of cold cases that are there because no connection can be made. We happen to make the right connection. And when Allison was murdered, familial DNA was not legal in Arizona. And I worked to help make it legal. And since that time, 24 other cases have been solved with familial DNA that probably wouldn't have been solved any other way. So Allison has a legacy here. We wish we didn't have to celebrate it this way, but I just don't think this case would have been solved without it.
And that's the thing I'm not sure people even know, but you've done so much advocacy work for other parents with murdered children. To see those other solves and to be that person for other families that sadly find themselves in the same position as you. Is that what gives you the strength to be able to go forward? I know that your whole family kind of deals with this grief differently, but for you, it's been kind of front facing, helping others.
Yeah, so I'm chapter leader for Parents of Murdered Children in Phoenix. I also facilitate a group of Minnesota of people that have lost children, different, not to murder, but to other reasons. And over the years that I've been working those organizations, I wind up helping those people. And it turns out that feedback helps me.
Yeah. When you're a parent and it's your child who's been murdered and you're sitting in that courtroom and you're waiting to hear the verdict, can you describe that feeling for me?
Well, we felt pretty good about the outcome today because this morning the jury asked a question, which was essentially their form. They had to show guilty or not guilty, and then they also were asked to describe, in their own opinion, whether it was a felony murder or a premeditated murder or both. And the form didn't have both on it. So the question to the judge this morning is, what do we do? Because the form is not exactly correct. And the fact that that question came in, it was so focused on the murder gave us pretty good confidence where they were coming from.
Yeah, and they said it that 11 of the 12 believed and felt that it was both premeditated and felony. Did you get a chance at all to talk to any of the jurors or the judge after the trial?
No, I didn't. They all left, and we were kind of huddling up, so I missed them. If they're listening, I give the jury a lot of credit. This is a very long trial. There were some days that were very long, a lot of information that was communicated, and they listened and paid attention the entire time. And I just think they did a fantastic job, not just because we won, but because they paid attention and they were serious about the work they were doing.
Yeah. Now everybody gears up for the sentencing phase, and with a capital case like this, it is almost like another mini trial. Sometimes the sentencing phase can be even more emotional or more exhausting than the first, just because you get more into those factors that are more emotional, more character. You guys eventually can give impact statements. How do you prepare and shift your mindset from guilty verdict, that's what we wanted, to there's still a little bit of a road ahead of us here?
So we've been given warning about the victim impact statement. And so we've been thinking about what we're going to write. And I was actually working on mine yesterday. It is more emotional,
Yeah.
but we're sort of prepared that it's something that has to get done. And to give you a bizarre data point, is my granddaughter, who's 14 years old, would like to make a victim impact statement. And she was 2.5 years old when Allison was murdered. But the two of them bonded, even at that young age. And it was her idea that she wants to deliver a statement. We have to see if it's possible because she's so young.
Yeah.
But the fact that she wants to says a lot about Allison's respect and the way she got along with people. And, people just loved her.
Yeah. What does that mean to you as Allison's dad to hear that a teenager wants to share words with somebody that she only got to know for a short amount of time?
Well, it was sort of stunning when she said it, when she asked. But as I thought back and I'd watched the two of them, even at 2.5, there was something special between the two of them. And it's come out, and she wants to do it. And I'm glad to have her.
Oh, of
If
course.
she can do it.
Yeah. Well, Harley, I mean, you have been incredible. Me personally watching you over all these years, the strength and the poise that you've shown, even in the face of the obstacles as this DNA, controversy weaved its way through the courts just to get to this point. It is so admirable. Allison would be so proud. You have done her so much justice just in and of your own advocacy. But I could not be more happy for you today after everything that you've fought for and been through. And all of us are with your family as you guys move forward here.
Well, thank you very much. And, it goes back to I had to do this for Allison, and it always drove me, even the obstacles we ran into. And today we got it done.
Yeah. Harley, thank you so much for joining the show. And obviously, we'll stay in touch as this continues on, but appreciate it. And I'm just so happy for you guys.
You bet, Brianna. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. All right. Big win for the Feldman family today. Could not be more happy for everything that Harley's done.